I'm going to tell you a secret. A secret about me that I've never let anybody know. But everybody know that watches my channel. How the hell do you make a bad marriage work? Well, I'll tell you a little secret. I was in the military, not a people, but I'll tell you a secret and how to make that work. Have very heavy feelings about the person that you're married to. That's how you succeed through all those Gulf deployments that you go on. You go on all these Gulf deployments because of the military. They tell you to go to the Persian Gulf for 9, 10, 12 months at a time. And you hear about all the horror stories of people going on deployment and getting those Dear John letters, so to speak. You get a Dear John letter, some guy fucking goes into your house, eats all your steaks out of the freezer, and he's doing your old lady while you're on deployment. Well, and then you come back from deployment and find an empty house. Steaks are gone. Everything's gone because you were stupid enough to give her a general power of attorney. And I'm going to tell you, that's what you don't do. When you're a married guy in the military, you don't give your wife a general power of attorney because that allows her to sign your name in everything while you're gone in the Gulf fighting all those Alibabas. She's back here doing what she likes to do, and she can sign your name to sell all your stuff. And then you're left with nothing when you come back. You come back to an empty house, empty freezer, no more steaks, no more beer left in your house. You're just SOL, out of luck. And she took off with some guy. You know? How do you prevent that from happening? Those Dear John letters. I can't count how many times all these other people I worked with on Persian Gulf deployments that came back to an empty house, no woman there, no wife there, no kids there, no nothing there. And she's gone because she signed your name on all your stuff and she took off in the Persian Gulf on you. Well, you were fighting the good fight for America. You were fighting the good fight in the Persian Gulf. And you done Iraq, Afghanistan, again and again, because the wars never seem to end with all these politicians in Washington. All the establishment politicians keep putting out all these pointless wars in the Gulf, and they're making big fat retirements. They're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year when they retire. But the military guy, what do you get? A measly $1,500 a month retirement when all the politicians are getting tons of money every month when they retire, and they don't have to risk their life for nothing. They don't got to go to the Persian Gulf, risk their life. But the rest of us military guys, we got to go to the Gulf and risk our lives. Almost get killed hundreds of times. And if you get lucky enough to survive, you get your military retirement, which is only $1,500 a month if you don't just happen to be lucky enough to get promoted all the way to the top, which I know how that feeling goes. No matter how many times you try for the same promotion, 8 years in a row, you try for the same promotion and they don't get it to you. And the price you pay to keep serving and going on those pointless Gulf wars, that the politicians are getting rich from because of all their donors and all their special interests, pay them big money so they can expend all their weapons in another Gulf War. How about that? But I'm going to tell you a simple story. If you're a guy in the military and you've got a wife and kids and you signed a general power of attorney, guess what you did? You just gave her the power to sign everything in your name while you're gone for 6 to 12 months in the Persian Gulf, and she can do anything she wants to everything, which means you can come home to an empty house, empty freezer, no more steaks, no more beer, everything's gone. Even the kids, everything's gone. You come home to an empty house after you fought all these years, all this time in the Persian Gulf you did for your family. And what do you get as a reward? An empty house, an empty freezer, no more beer, no more steaks, no more nothing. So I'm going to let you in on a little secret. I was stupid enough when I was 24 years old to get married. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that can relate to me that were dumb enough to get married and they didn't know everything that was therein. They didn't know all the things that they did wrong when they got married. When you sign that general power of attorney, you give her every right to do everything in your name while you're gone defending your country or serving your country or basically serving all the special interests of all the politicians, making a ton of money on you, on your backs. Well, how did I make it through all these years in the military? I retired with more than 20 years active duty in the military, more than 13 tours in the Gulf. And I came back, and my house was still there, my son was still there, my wife was still there. What's the secret? Well, when you're dumb enough to get married at a young age, sometimes you just don't have that connection with a person. And that's the only thing that can save you from losing house and limb and losing everything you know when you give her a special power of attorney to everything to make it disappear. Well, I don't know how I did it all these years. I was married, and I gave her actually general power of attorneys every time I went to the Gulf. I came home and everything was still there. How do you do it? If you ain't got no real love. You get all these people that so-called fall in love with somebody. Well, what do you get in return? You think you have all that love, but it's only one way. You feel it, they don't. They cash in on everything, take off with that special power of attorney, actually a general power of attorney. They sign everything away and they take off with the guy that cleaned out your steaks in the freezer. I can't count how many people that came to me when I was a supervisor and said, she took me for everything I'm worth. I don't know how to focus on the Gulf anymore. I don't know how to focus on what my job is anymore in the military because she took off with everything. How do you survive? What do you do? Well, I'm not going to tell everybody what they do, but I'm going to say, as preventive maintenance, do not sign a general power of attorney. Sign a special power of attorney to only do certain things while you're out in deployment. And that'll save you a bunch of heartache and coming home with nothing but a bare house and nothing there because she signed your name to do everything while you were gone. So, how did I make it all these years? Well, there wasn't no love. At least I didn't feel it. And I was able to go on all these deployments all these years and not miss anybody. You have to turn your heart off. When you want to do all these deployments in the Gulf, you got to turn everything off to where you feel totally neutral and you could just focus on your job in the Gulf, do what you got to do, and make it back. When I came back, everybody was home because I didn't get too gooey in everything. I didn't get too gooey in the relationship. I didn't fall too much in love with the person I married. There's a price either way you slice it. It's a two-way sword. Because when you retire from the military, then you're stuck with everything you created. You're stuck with the wife that you married. You're stuck with the kids that you created. You're stuck with everything. And when you're done with your deployment and you're done with your military career, you're stuck with what you created. Then you find out what you really got. And my dogs tried to open the garage. My youngest boy, he's about 5 years old. He knows how to push the garage door opener. But since I disconnected it, he can't open the garage and go out to play. He can't go out and explore all the different places there are to explore. The place I don't want him to explore is the middle of the road. When all these people go speeding by, they could run him over. So I was smart enough to disconnect the garage. So when he pushes that button to open the garage, you can see the garage didn't open. So I outsmarted my 5-year-old boy, yellow lab mix boy named Coda. Anyway, aside from that, I'm going to tell everybody, if you want to make it through your military career and you want to still have a family, best thing is not to let your heart get involved. You turn that thing off. When you go on deployment, you don't feel no love, you don't feel no hate, you don't feel no nothing. You just focus on the job at hand, and that's how you make it through a military career without losing everything. But the downside is, the double-edged sword, is you finish your military career and you got to live with these people that you created. You got to live with those decisions you made when you were young and stupid at the early ages of your 20s, and you married some lady and you had a kid. You got to live with these decisions. You retire from the military, you're in your 40s, you start approaching your 50s, then you're in the 50s club like me. You got to live with all these decisions you made. You're not happy with the people you live with. And here you are. So, the bottom line is, if you want to make a military career, either A, you don't fall in love with the lady that had your kids. You don't feel no emotional attachment. So you don't feel questions. When you're doing your job out in the Gulf, you don't feel that mental anguish of falling in love and being away from someone you care about. You turn that off. That's how you survive in the military all these years. Now, if you cannot do that, I highly recommend don't get married, don't have no kids if you're considering a career in the military. You want to turn your feelings off. You want to turn it all off. You want to turn your taste buds off because the food you have in the military ain't the greatest. So you got to turn everything off and just focus on the job at hand. That's how you make it through a military career of 20 years plus. I did more than 20 years active duty, 10 years reserves, and I retired with 30 years of service. That's how you do it. Now, is that the career you want? It's a two-edged sword. You survive all those Gulf wars, well, you get a little tiny retirement every month of about $1,500 a month after they take away all kinds of other things like taxes and medical benefits and all that. And in today's money, $1,500 isn't much. So take it from me, an old military retired guy. If you want to do a full career in the military, make sure you're in a career that can promote you all the way to the top. Because if not, you're going to end up with a tiny retirement like me. Because when you start competing for the higher levels of the military ranks, it's all politics and what you look like. It doesn't matter how good you perform. It's what color you are, what you were born as, and what kind of extra you got going for you. Kind of sad but true. If you're the pale male, you don't make it in the military all the way up unless you know a lot of people in high positions. And those are the people that make it to the high ranks. So, all I can say about the marriage thing, be able to separate your feelings and you'll be able to make it through any deployment. Turn off those feelings. Turn off that grief. Turn off those missing feelings when you miss somebody. That's how you make it through a deployment without losing your mind. And if you cannot do it, well, it's hard to make a military career. That's the price you pay when you choose a military career. You got to turn your feelings off. You got to focus on the job at hand. You got to focus on killing the bad guys. You got to focus on warheads on the foreheads. You got to focus. If you can't do that, then you're just going to be a one enlistment guy. You got to turn off your feelings if you want to complete a military career. And that's advice from me. I'm sure there's a lot of opinions out there, and I welcome them in the comment section. Tell me how you made it through your military career. How did you turn off your feelings? How did you make it through 20 plus years of military service? Tell me how you did it. Tell you how you made it when you love your kids and you love your wife and you love everybody you had to leave for 6 to 12 months at a time whenever you go to the Gulf on a deployment. Tell me how you made it. Tell me what you did in your mind to turn off all those feelings. And tell me how it is when you retired and you have to try to make a relationship all over again with the people that you created. You created a son, you created a daughter, you married a wife, and you had to leave them 6 to 12 months every year for your entire military career of over 20 years active duty plus. And then you got to go back and try to undo all the feelings that you had to undo to make it through every deployment. If you're going to be successful, you got to turn your feelings off. And that's a real hard thing to do. It's easy to say, like I'm saying it now, but it's hard to do. So that's something to think about. If you're going to make the military career, you need to have other ways to turn off your feelings. You got to think about other things that give you pleasure. Like me, I think about cars and performance. Like I've always done on my channel, I think about making cars perform better. That's what helped me get through all those tough days. I thought about things and how to modify cars to make them faster. You got to pick something that can take your mind off the grief of being away people that you care about. That's how you make it through a military career. And I'm just being real with you. I haven't expressed any of my personal stuff throughout my whole channel since I started it. But I'm giving you some real talk. I'm giving you some real feelings on how I made it through a 20-plus year active duty career and a 30-year career in the military. How do you make it through? And what's sad is when it's all said and done, if you don't make it all the way to the top on rank, you only get $1,500 a month. Now look at all those congressmen and senators. They get triple digits a year when they retire. Us military guys, we get the leftovers. Someone in Congress and Senate needs to change that and make military benefits at least equal to congressmen and senators that serve 20 plus years, 30 plus years, and do all the hard jobs that they could only dream about accomplishing. All they do in Congress and Senate is talk and very little action. Us guys in the military and us ladies in the military, we sacrifice everything. We don't see anybody we care about for 6 to 12 months at a time whenever we go to the Gulf, where the congressmen and senators just decide, oh yeah, let's send the military in. And they never have to go. They never have to sacrifice their kids, their wife, their feelings. So you know what I have to say? I said it. When you retire from the military career, you've committed. You've done the ultimate sacrifice. And if you get lucky enough to live through a 20-plus year career, you come back to your home, you come back to the States from overseas. I spent over 17 years overseas. You know, I sacrificed a lot. I sacrificed relationships with my family. I sacrificed relationships with my son, my wife. You know, and you can't get that back. You know, they really need to appreciate career military retirees a little bit more. Why do the congressmen and senators make so much damn money? And the military that retire, they don't make anything, especially compared to today's inflation, today's cost of living. I just wanted to share that with everybody. Real talk from Matt, and I hope everybody has a great night.